Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to you. Chris here with Lunchtime Chats. I think when I started this semester, I did a video because I was in like day one of my classes this semester. And I think I was really talking about intersectional pedagogies and my excitement about the course. So I figured it's only fair that I make a wrap-up video. Well, that's what I'm calling it, the wrap-up, because yesterday was the last day of classes. I have two final assignments to do, and you're also wrapping up work assignments and things because it's almost the holidays. And I was like, so I'm calling this a wrap up, my final thoughts on the doctoral student journeys. So what I like most about this semester was I really liked um, my classes. Shout out to Professor Toby Beecham and Professor Brooklyn Gibson. Race and Digital Studies, Intersectional Pedagogies were excellent classes. I think what I like most about both classes equally was the space that they created to read, to grow, to learn, to expand, to ask questions, to listen to other people's questions and build off of that and have really great discussions. Learning for me is a hobby, so it's exciting to learn any and everything, and then figuring out how it applies to everyday life or how it applies to the work that I do in my job or the work that I do in my research is always exciting and fun. To me, what I like most about intersectional pedagogies was really rethinking what it means to be a teacher in the sense of expanding beyond just the content that you create and the objectives that you achieve, meaning that I think it's important to achieve that, but really starting to think about what it means about the space that you create for the students that you do teach, whether that's a one-time session or it's a credit level course, and not just like thinking about that theoretically, but thinking about that in the experience that you create. And that's what I think I enjoyed so much about my course with Professor Beecham was that all of the readings is like it started you on the ground floor and then it took you somewhere. And it wasn't just him doing that, it was the fact that there was actual space. And that's the only word that I can really come up with in the class where people felt free to have conversation, to talk about things, to reflect, to connect it to other literature, to talk about their own positionality, their own personal experiences. And it felt safe to do that, even though everybody didn't necessarily always agree. Everybody didn't see things the same. There were definitely opportunities to say, well, this is what this means. This is what this meant, even though I understand you saw it that way. And just really seeing that play out. And I think that was like maybe the second time I had seen that play out that way in a course. The first time was in race and cultural critique. For me, this semester felt like an extension of both of those classes in different forms. And so I'm grateful for that. And it also made me think about what books I want to continue reading. I definitely got Viral Justice by Professor Ruha Benjamin. That's on my list. A friend gave me this one, so I'm calling this for fun. And then also Rules for Radicals. That's what we were reading in the class. We read the conclusion, and I like the rules. And so I figured, you know what, in the wrap up, the best way to wrap up this semester is to talk, or this, episode here is to talk about 11 rules, which I really like that because it was one of those things, excuse me, that even though we didn't read the book in its entirety, thinking of the fact that we were really in a class that was about critique, the fallacies, the merit, the good things about a lot of different experiences in various academic environments. It was really interesting to think about rules, to think about what it means to be radical, and to think about all the different people and how that manifests itself. Because I think ultimately, when you think about teaching in itself, teaching is often the experience you create for your students to learn the content that you're designing or the curriculum that you have and how they use it. You're teaching them about how they're going to use it. But the truth, meaning universal and unchanging, is they use it in various ways. They do. We don't always get to choose how they use that information, unfortunately, good and bad. And then there are times when I think that really isn't what we're supposed to do. And when I'm saying this, I'm saying college and graduate. I definitely think this will have a different context if we're talking about people that are in K through 12. Totally different. And just throwing that out in the idea. But as I was saying, rules. I thought rules for radicals. Because when you think about rules for radicals, what comes to mind is I think about that song by Sweet Honey in the Rock, We Who Believe in Freedom Cannot Rest. Or I think about Angela Davis's book. I think it's a book about freedom. And she's talking about freedom is a constant struggle. And she talks about how struggle always has an ask. And when you think about, a lot of times when we think about what's going on in the world, what's going on in terms of different concepts, especially when you look at diversity, equity, inclusion, and access, when you think about race, when you think about the life in general, whether you're in an academic space or not, and in your everyday life, it's often radical in its own form. It's often re-envisioning each and every day. It's often what it takes you through and to as you carry out your life. And for some people, that isn't just what you do in your job. That's who you are as a being and what it means to be. And how that shows up. So those are the things I took from my class, And so, like I'm saying, 11 things. I'm just gonna share this and go. Well, I'll expound because one of them gives me a good story time. 11 rules. One was all good radical politics require a thoroughgoing understanding of one's historical and institutional context. 2, the past does not stay still. From the first to the middle hour of the day and on to eventide, it creeps. 3, politics is not the science of resignation. It is the science of our activation by ourselves and by others. 4, choose intellection. 5, when institutions say yes, there's also a moment of jeopardy. 6, assume you don't belong. 7, in all things be your own model, but one with historical ties. 8, you can learn something from everybody. 9, we are part of long and courageous efforts of human recovery that someone took the time to imagine, and our political visions must be grounded there. 10, progressive creativity is progressive creativity is a multiform social force. And 11, there is no progressive politics that is not relational. And I was thinking, which of these 11 stand out the most? One, I think, number one, all good radical politics require a thoroughgoing understanding of one's historical and institutional context, because the who, what, where, when, why, how will always matter. It will. Now, what you act on or what you do, I don't know. But the who, what, where, why, and when is the context of that. 2, I would say you could learn from anybody. I'll add 2 more. So, because I initially said 3. The third is assume you don't belong. And the fourth is there's no progressive politics that is not relational. I really like that assume you don't belong, because oftentimes in my experience as a student, I meet other students who state that they felt they don't belong. Now, I don't necessarily have the privilege or the permission to share their specific story, but I know thematically it comes up a lot. And it made me think about this context of assume you don't belong. And in the book, you had the writer was talking about leaving Howard University and on their way to the University of California, and I think they were in an interdisciplinary setting, and he that didn't know what to do with his interests in literature and race, and so one of his best friends was a Greek woman, and she was ahead of him in her dissertation. and they also taught in the same writing program. And he shared with her one day during the period of that the instructors were busy grading papers. He said to her, Alex, maybe I don't belong in this field, or maybe I don't belong in sociology, is what he said. And she had had enough of his kvetching, as he wrote, and said, Rod, just assume you don't belong. To his surprise, her advice was liberating, because he realized, sorry, Rod is the one speaking here. Rod realized that much of his anxiety was the result of trying to belong to a discipline on terms that he never got to determine, to be certified without ever having any say about the components of certification. The interesting thing is, in intersectional pedagogies, we talked a lot, and in race and digital studies, we talked a lot about who gets to say who contributes knowledge, and what knowledge is, and what it looks like. And we talked about it not in the context of just out here, over here, behind me, in a theoretical, but in actual experience of lived experience, life experience, and actual experience of work. And the reality is, a lot of people have had a wide array of work experience, because I can tell you, before becoming to academic library spaces, before being a teacher, I have had all the jobs, as I'm sure most people have as well. But when you say people to me, wide array of contexts. I've been in all kinds of contexts, but thinking about just that belonging and how it often comes up in every space, but it feels like academia is often the forefront of that. And I think that's because I'm in academia, I'm in the library, I'm also a doctoral student. So, and just the fact that you meet people who not only say they don't belong, or say they get that feeling, that unfortunate experience is passed on by others, but yet being told, except you don't belong, can feel freeing, because you get to the point of understanding. You get to choose, you get to decide how you show up to a space, what you bring to a space, what knowledge means to you, what it is exactly that you will create. And I think that's so very important and so very empowering to get to. And I think everybody gets to that point, but they get to it in different ways. And what story that brings up to me is, I can say, in academic library space, in my job, and in my department, I have always felt that I could be the whole of who I am, and be myself, and share my ideas, and share thoughts, and grow, and it's all good. But outside of this space, in other conferences, sometimes that hasn't been the experience that I have had. And what I think about most was, I think this was this 2019? Long before COVID. So 2018, 2019. Well, the paper came out in 2019. So it was before the paper, right before the paper came out. There was a conference. I'm just gonna call the conference the Principals Conference, because that's literally what it feels like. It's the Principals Conference, and I say principals because the primary audience is provosts, is deans, is unit heads of various institutions around the world. I was super excited to go to this conference because they had accepted my abstract, and I didn't have to participate in a panel. I got to give a solo presentation. So think about this, whatever it is that you do, if you're in academia or not, let's just say you get to do whatever that is, you get 15 to 20 minutes to showcase your very best, whatever that is. So this, in context of academic space, was the ability to talk about this work, and it was a co-authored work. My co-author couldn't attend because she was going someplace else, but she was like, hey, I support it, go for it, do the presentation. And I acknowledged that she was definitely a part of the presentation, and wrote the paper with me, because that was all true. So they said I could give this presentation. So it's presentation day. The morning of, I had my power blue outfit, my dress pants, my navy blue dress pants. I have a pink dress shirt. I have the badge on my shirt, because they gave you a speaker badge and a participant badge. And I'm like, yay, because anybody that knows me for real knows I love conferences. And as you can see, I don't have an issue with talking. So Cool. I'm excited about that. I get to the conference. I'm also excited about conferences because it's a chance to meet new people. I'm an extrovert. Two, it's also a chance to see old friends or make new ones or learn new things. And I also evaluate all conferences based on the snacks. Cool. Love a good meal. That's just me. And so, you're at this conference and I'm like, cool, you get, because I stayed at the conference hotel, you get downstairs and they have omelets. I'm like, this is good. This is good. And, I'm super prepared anyway, even though I know I'm speaking at 10, I already have an extra dress shirt already ironed and outfit in case any accident could possibly befall me. So, I'm like, I'm gonna get my coffee. I already gotten to the table, said good morning to everybody, asked them, could I sit there? Because, it's a conference, but I'm not gonna assume that I can just sit, here at this table. And they're like, yeah, cool, nice to meet you. I'm such and such. I'm like, cool, I'm Chris, blah, blah, blah. And I go ahead and get my coffee. I put my bag down and I'm like, okay, right after I put this coffee on the table, I'm gonna go get in this omelet line because when other people know that it's omelets, it's gonna get kind of busy because they also have so they have the continental of, oatmeals and pastries and coffee. And then they have, where you can see this board here that you can't see that's my whiteboard in my office here, but they have that is like the buffet experience of if you want, the eggs that are already done and the bacon and the potatoes, and they got the ketchup and whatever condiments that you might want, and napkins and things. So they got omelets. And so, so I pour my coffee, I say good morning to the people in line, because I'm happy. I am on 100. I'm like, I am presenting today. I am prepared. I know my speech. I not only email myself the slides, I have the USB with me. I am ready to give this presentation. I'm excited because I have they have already emailed us and told me that the article is accepted. It just comes out in this date or will be coming out. I'm excited. This is what I do. Showtime. This was where I'm at. Come follow along with the story. So it's showtime, I'm ready to go. And as I turn, to take my coffee, because I'm extra slow on making it because even though I have an extra outfit already prepared, I don't want to change my clothes. So I'm being very cognizant of of making sure the top is closed and everything, no accidents. So as I'm doing this and I'm turning, I hear, excuse me, we're out of oatmeal. Now I got there early too, but that's a consequence of being a child of teachers and military people. Because my father's mantra is always, when you're on time, you're late. So I'm always early for places. And I'm like, so part of me in my mind is like, I don't think this person is talking to me, but I'm the only one there. So there's no way to not know that they're talking to me because it's just me and the other people are there, but they're like at the table. So there's nobody there but me and this white woman. And so I slow down and then I said, in my mind, I'm just gonna pretend that I'm hearing things because I did not hear someone say to me, they're not talking to me. It's somebody else that's here that I haven't noticed them because I'm so busy on this coffee. I'm in the zone of getting an omelet and getting prepared for my talk. It has to be that. But then I hear it again. And it's closer because it's like literally like, see, it's right here. It's right here. It's right here. And I turn and she said it again. And she's like, excuse me, we're out of oatmeal. And I look at this lady and I say to her, I smile. I said, good morning. I said, I hear you. I said, but ma'am, I don't work here. She looks and I said, see, and I show her my shirt. I said, see, I have a speaker badge and an attendee. I'm not part of the hotel staff. I'm not. Because my dad would often say that when people mistake you, and not necessarily in a conference setting, but in other states, his thing would be, well, you look employed. People try to positionality as Black people, we often try to come up with something positive because if you've not had the lived experience of living while Black, some of these things are like really foreign for you, because if you've always been seen, always been known, always been trusted, always been the upstanding, always been in the right, you have no idea what it's like to be in a space and they say clean up on aisle 5 and you're the only one in the clean up on aisle 5. Or you're in a neighborhood looking at houses and the police stop you and they tell you that there have been burglaries in the neighborhood, and they run you and the person with you's tag, even though you say to the officer, hey, I did not know how to get out of this neighborhood, can you help me, please show me out, because I've been circling out around here for about an hour. And then when they run your tag and realize that you have no tickets, no warrants, nothing that is unlawful, they leave you in the neighborhood. If you've never had that life experience, it's kind of like me explaining to you snow and all you've had is heat. Just saying. So, this lady says to me, about getting her oatmeal. And I'm like, hey, I don't work here, ma'am. I'm a conference attendee and participant. And I'm slowly turning. I'm like, this, it is what it is. This, whatever. And then she says, oh, I'm just so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I said, hey, it's all good. I don't know this lady. She doesn't have anything on for me to say her name is. And being that this is 2, 3 years ago, what would it really matter? What I don't live in New Mexico where the conference was. I don't work in New Mexico. These are things that happen. And I'm sure if you look at Black Twitter, if you look at a lot of people's experiences, they can tell you a lot of times that this has happened to a lot of people. And it's definitely not even been, do you work here and serve me? It's been other things that have happened to them. So, and then she, personally, I think if she had just left it at I'm sorry, or even if she had not said anything, it was okay. It just felt further connected to just craziness when she said, oh, it's your pants. It's your pants. Your pants are black. I said, my pants are black. And I let it go because I looked immediately to the right. And I'm like, the people who are serving the omelets are Hispanic people, and they're wearing brown and black. And look at me, this melanin I am, brown, caramel, and black. So whatever. I'm like, maybe that's a far stretch, but I just felt like she should have let it go. And I didn't say anything. I just went on and got in the omelet line because I'm like, I don't have time for this. Because what am I gonna really say? What am I really gonna do? I'm not here. I can't correct whatever that is that's going on, what's happening. But I think about that in terms of belonging, because whether or not that's spaces we've been in and they assume that we're the help and we're not necessarily a conference speaker, a conference presenter, or the things where your identity of being a person who's has published articles doesn't necessarily help you in that context. It connects in many ways to belonging, because oftentimes you'll be in departments where you're like, it's just you, or you can count the number of people, and you'll have actual statistics that'll show at an institution when you go and break down ranks, assistant, associate, full, and they do that by race, they do that by gender, or they do that by the various identities. You notice that the numbers get lesser, and this isn't a critique of the reasons that is or stating that that's right or wrong. That's just saying all of those things connect to belonging. And yet it was freeing to the person to know, what, I get to just be. I don't have to make myself fit in a space, being who you are. And I found that many students have said in class later or in other discussions that it was freeing to them to just focus on not trying to belong to a specific space or place, but just to be. And that in itself was extremely freeing. Last point, there's no progressive politics that is not relational. I'll never forget Professor Lila Sharif said to me, everything is relational. I think that's true. Even though I know number 11 is talking about progressive politics, the truth is everything is relational. It is. The level of intimacy, the level of interconnectedness, institutions, organizations, groups, people varies, but it is a relational aspect. And oftentimes in many institutions, organizations, there is an assumption that people have great relational skills. And some people already come to an organization, an institution, group, job, space, relationship with these skills. And some people really need to work on those. They're really going to have to. And that ain't shade, sugar. That's just what they need to do. And I do that, think about that all the time in my life, about how you can get better at having the great personal relationships with people, because you do have to work with people. Whether you're working with them to fix the copier, work with them to help with a request, working with them to do something it is that you need, that's still a relational experience, even if it's 5 minutes or it's a project or it's not. I think so many times in life, we focus solely on the fact that I'm good or I don't need people, F them people. And F can be whatever it is you want it to be. I'm just saying, and while that's true, and you might be right to feel all of the feelings that you feel, it's also true to always work on your relational experiences and your relational skills. Because I think of my father, who says it is our relationship with people that is more important than positions, things, and places. People matter out here in these streets. Connectivity will always matter. And that's one of the things that I've had to learn in my own journey as a person, journey in these academic streets, or journey in life, that is excellent and wonderful as institutions can be, and the opportunities that they can provide. Because I can say, yes, that happened in a conference. It's also true that being here, I've gotten to go places that I never imagined that I could go. I never imagined that a person from Grovetown, Georgia, would get to go to London twice, to get to go to Paris, to get to go to Beijing, to get to go to Canada, to get to meet speakers that are on my bucket list of I've always wanted to hear them, or I read their work, or I read their book, and I get to see them at some talk, and I get to be helpful to people and help them find some resource that they were looking for, or I get to write with other colleagues who are equally and far greater in their rhetoric, in their genius, in their skill, and be amazing. And I get to love what I do and grow from that. That while that is true, it is also true that there are other people that are having other experiences that could be disparate or are disparate. And how do we, when we're thinking about the concept of intersectional pedagogies, how do we create liberation and support for that? Because while my experiences might be positive, that will never negate the fact that other people's experiences could be completely opposite. But what matters the most is making sure that others feel supported, and figuring out what support will look like and mean for them. And come close, this is not just a work concept. It's a concept that's important for the people that you impact and influence, that are in your what? Everyday life. Just out here giving you tips. That's all I got. It's been a great semester. I thank you for taking time to click play and listen to this video as me tell you the wrap up. So I hope y'all have a good day. I hope you have a great holiday season. I know holidays can be hard because some people are dealing with loss of people, loss of relationships, just loss, period, or just the fact that, Blue Christmas is a real thing. What I want to say to you is I'm holding space for you. I hope that you are surrounded, or you find your people that get you, that like you, that love you for real, and support you for real, not just socially, but they know like your real phone number and where you stay, and they go and can text and contact you and say, hey, friend, and holler at you. Get them people. Hold those people close. They will always matter, whether they're chosen or they are people that biologically share your DNA. I hope you find them, and I hope you hold them tight. And for those people that don't show you that and can cause issues, I hope you get the help and support that you need. And whatever that is, if you need resources that provide that, be it mental health or medical, I know some really great people, because I will always tell you therapy saved my life, and I will always say mental health therapists and support groups are always good to go to when you don't have the immediacy of other groups or other people to reach out to. So that's all I got. This is called the supportive librarian, me, just providing resources and just telling you about my doctoral student journeys. Peace and all that good stuff. Take care of yourself. All right. Wishing you a wondrous and safe and wonderful holiday season. Peace. Thanks for listening. See y'all next semester.